Archives of Prasar Bharati presents the timeless treasure of golden era.
Very warm welcome to the studio of All India Radio. Today we have with us Sandra Kyle. Sandra is a renowned animal rights activist from New Zealand. She is a retired polytechnic lecturer and a part-time music teacher. She was given a certificate by Maneka Gandhi for her work on animal rights. And her love for India since the early 80s makes this the 7th visit to India. Oh, very warm welcome to you as well.
Thank you, Hati.
Your fondness for animals, was it a part of your growing up years, or is it something you picked up later on?
I've always been fond of animals. As a youngster, we had family pets, a cat and a dog. And when I look back at the photos of me as a child, I've always got a dog or a cat in my arms or on my knee. Yes, I've always loved animals.
So it was right from the very beginning.
Right, as long as I can remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
If we go back in time, man was a hunter-gatherer. The domestication of animals played a pivotal role in the progress of mankind.
Yes.
Horses, elephants were used in warfare, apart from mundane tasks of carrying people from one place to another. Oxes ploughed fields and so on. If we kept a soft heart towards animals, would the human civilization be where it is today?
Right. Well, civilization changes. We're now living in a time where we all have cell phones and we're sending satellites up into space and colonizing other planets. So clearly the comparison with thousands of years ago breaks down at some point. In terms of the way we've always looked at and treated animals, I think that is evolving as well, and so it should, in my opinion. The way I see it, when I look at an animal, I see myself.
Okay.
Animals are us. There's the same spirit that animates me in the dogs that I see every day on the streets of Delhi, and the cows that wander around eating plastic from rubbish piles. I think that the very best of our human qualities are empathy and compassion. And I think that we could show more compassion to our fellow travellers, our fellow animals. I realise it's not in the culture traditionally. In the culture traditionally, the same in my country, all over the world. We've exploited animals, we've killed them, and we've eaten them. I think this is the time of change. We're at the beginning of an enormous change that will take place all over the world in terms of the way we view our fellow beings.
So enough is enough is what you're trying to...
Enough is enough, exactly.
Okay.
That was then, this is now.
Kyle, you comfort animals by making eye contact, singing, playing music, and reciting mantras for animals about to be slaughtered.
Yes.
What is the effect on your levels of distress and on the animals that you are talking to or singing to?
Yes, so I do regular slaughterhouse vigils as part of the worldwide Animal Save movement, started by Anita Quines in Canada about 12 years ago now. And there are 3 slaughterhouses in my relatively small city of Wanganui in New Zealand. And I go regularly to 2 of them. And yes, I can climb up on my stepladder and look over the fence where I see the cows, in this case just cows. I can't see the pigs, they're also there, but I can't make eye contact with them. And I can spend some time talking to them, singing to them. I often do sing mantras to them. I'm hoping it's a blessing on their lives that are about to be taken away from them.
And I believe these mantras, you learned them on your various trips in India?
Yes. It was just over 30 years ago I came to India the first time. And I do have a love of India. There's no place like it in the world.
That's great.
And I was, the first trip, I stayed a year, and I mainly moved around different ashrams, starting with Swami Shivananda's ashram in Rishikesh. But I travelled around India, staying in ashrams, learning mantras, learning the culture, imbibing Indian spirituality.
These mantras that you've learned, are they verbatim? You can recite them, or is it written somewhere on a paper or a diary?
Oh, no, I'm 74. I can't remember what I had for breakfast. But I do know some little mantras, little tunes that I sing over and over again to the animals. But I also sing them other songs, whatever comes to my head.
You are advocating the closure of all slaughterhouses by 2025 in New Zealand.
Yes.
That's what
Not
you're
long.
doing. Is that a realistic goal?
When I first self-published a book calling for the closure of slaughterhouses in my country by 2025, it was 2018. So that's 5 years ago. In those 5 years, we've seen enormous changes in the growth of veganism in my country. You go into supermarkets now and you see many, many products that are especially made for vegan consumption. It's gone from a term that nobody quite knew what it was to a very common mainstream word. It's probably unrealistic in terms of an exact date, but it's in the ballpark.
Okay.
I still believe it's in the ballpark. And what's going to make the change is the plant-based textured proteins, the laboratory meats, but especially the plant-based alternatives to meat that are now proliferating. And taste really good now. They never used to at the beginning, but now they're beginning to taste really good. I had a vegan trumpet the other day.
Oh,
Trumpet
really?
is, you know what a trumpet is? An ice cream. It's an ice cream that we have in New Zealand, and it's in the shape of a trumpet.
Okay.
And I gave one to my non-vegan sister, and she didn't know the difference.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So there are many reasons why I believe change is happening now. It's happening because of taste, availability, affordability of vegan products. It's happening because we went through a widespread pandemic that was caused through our contact with animals and exploiting animals. It's changing because of technology and the crisis of climate change. All of these things are making change happen.
Do you think the lack of awareness of a very basic scientific fact that humans are not made to eat meat, our anatomy, our digestive system is not geared for eating meat, but that is not being advocated very seriously?
There are some who do it. The problem seems to be that you have an expert that says this and an expert that says the opposite thing. But we were certainly eating plants before we were eating animals. And my own understanding is that, we're omnivorous. But if we want to talk about health, eating meat and dairy products has been tied to many health problems, such as diabetes, high blood pressure, arthritis.
Yeah, but that doesn't deter us
Cancer.
from... Yeah.
That's what I was looking for, cancer. It doesn't deter people from eating it.
Yeah.
We're attached to our taste buds, aren't we?
Nature of the beast.
Nature of the beast, yeah.
Closing slaughterhouses can, I think, disturb the natural balance. What will happen to all the animals reared in industrial scale setups if they are released into the wild?
Right. That probably wouldn't happen. Domesticated animals such as pigs and cows and chickens and sheep, I don't think could just be released in large numbers. But it will be once the decision has been made, once the transition is on its way to change the animal agriculture to plant-based agriculture, then there will be a lessening of demand. There will be fewer animals who are artificially inseminated in meat production and in dairy. And so the numbers would be greatly mitigated.
So it will be a gradual...
It will be gradual but quick. If you ask me.
So you wish.
Yes, so I wish. And the other thing is that hopefully there'll be sanctuaries.
Okay.
Already we've got more and
Yes,
more sanctuaries in
that's
New
true.
Zealand for our animals.
In India too, we have a lot of sanctuaries. The government is taking a very proactive step in trying to tackle this problem.
Yes.
What, in your opinion, is the work that the Indian government is doing? How do you perceive it, and how does it fit in your efforts to create awareness about animal rights?
I should probably clarify that I'm here this time as part of, if you like, a mission that I have. I've given it a name, Project Karuna, and it stems from my past visits to India, when I have seen all the street animals, the hungry and thirsty and homeless and nameless dogs, the wandering cows, often diseased, often injured by traffic and so on. And at a personal level, I've encountered some of these animals, and I've made them a promise that one day I would come back and I'd do what I could for them. This is the time.
That's wonderful. But the name Project Corona, is that apt when the entire world is trying to forget the corona epidemic?
Oh, it's not Corona, it's Karuna.
Oh, Karuna. Okay, that's Indian. Karuna. That sounded like Corona to me.
Oh, that's precious. I hope you keep that in.
Okay.
Karuna, it's my pronunciation,
Yeah,
sorry.
you said Corona, so I was...
Yes, no, Project Karuna.
Now, Kyle, is your advocacy about animal rights gaining traction among people, or do you feel it's a solitary fight?
No, I don't think it's a solitary fight. I think that we're still very much in the minority, the people who are standing up and saying we need to look at our fellow beings in different ways. We need to be their stewards. We need to be their benefactors. We need to stop the carnage that goes on every day all over the world, in my country also. But we are being heard. I'm kind of old-fashioned enough to think that we have right on our side, and that makes us powerful.
That's okay. And what is the content of your talk with the animals? Does eye contact get you an emotional window into the animal's mind before it's being taken to slaughter?
It's a fascinating question, and I've often been criticised by people who say I'm being self-indulgent because it's not going to make any difference to the animals. And of course I know that it's not going to make one blind bit of difference to those animals that I'm making eye contact with and talking to and singing. That Slaughterhouse Vigils is one of the things I do. Other things I do is get myself involved with making submissions to the government, writing blogs. In New Zealand, we're just starting an animal justice party. And I have, I'm one of a number of people who are involved in getting that started. So we're looking for systemic change as well, of course. But on a personal level, when I look at a cow, often they're very young. They might only be 15 months old. The year before, they were calves, little baby calves. And here they are, waiting in a slaughterhouse to have their throats slit. So I know I can't save them. And I'm doing everything that I can in my power to be able to change things for animals in the future. But for them, I see a soul when I look at an animal. So just the way I'm looking at you now and I'm sincerely communicating with you, it's the same when I look at a cow and when I talk to a cow and when I sing to a cow. And I believe that at some level they understand.
There is a connect.
I believe there is, and it's not every cow. Some of them are just too afraid, too restless. You can see their anxiety. They won't make eye contact with me. They're pacing around. They're leaning on each other to try and get some comfort and clarity about this frightening situation that they're in. But with some, I do make a connection. And I think that my voice, I've got rather a soft voice. And when I'm singing to them, momentarily, there may be some small relief. I can't ask more than that.
That's a lot in the circumstances they are in, I would think.
Yes.
That small relief.
Yes.
And what is the reaction of the slaughterhouse? Your activism is an attack on their livelihood, is it not?
Yes, it is. And I have, as I stand, and I stand with friends, it's not always me by myself. I have activist friends who drive 2 and 3 hours sometimes to come and stand with me. And we are sometimes abused by the public. The slaughterhouse staff do not like us. I've had quite a bit of publicity locally and even nationally on what I do. And so there are many people who don't like me because I am criticising overtly and indirectly the way they make their living. And I'm also criticising people who eat the animals. In other words, the majority of New Zealanders. So not everyone's going to love what I do.
So they are giving you sleepless nights. Is it the other way around as well?
It's not the slaughterhouse staff that give me sleepless nights. It's the animals. It's the expression of the animals, of the way they hang their heads, the way they flick their tails, the way they go and take a drink as a kind of displacement behaviour to deflect from the anxiety they're feeling. This is what keeps me awake at night. It's not the slaughterhouse staff. They don't frighten me.
Well, so they're just wasting their time.
Well, I should probably say that at the moment, about 5 months ago, I was issued with a trespass notice for my local slaughterhouse. I can't go back there.
You can just hang at the periphery. You can't.
I can stand on the periphery, but I can't get close.
At this age and with so much criticism hovering around you, how much time can you devote to this project?
Well, as you say, I'm 74 in a couple of weeks. I turn 74. Yeah. I'm retired, which means I get a pension from the government, so I don't have to worry about earning a living, although I do. I teach music part-time. I have many hours in the day that I can devote to this.
So you have that energy as well.
I'm a vegan. Got plenty of energy.
Yeah. Horses eat grass and run. Do you have any pets at home?
I do. I have Bichon, 2 Bichons now. I adopted an elderly Bichon just 6 months ago, less than 6 months ago. And he is nearly 15. Nobody wanted him because he had some behavioural issues. But I wanted to give him a good rest of his life. So I've got 2 Bichons.
So these are like dog breeds, is it?
That dog, yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's a dog, a small, white, fluffy dog.
Okay.
It's a pedigree dog, but I have them as rescues.
Okay.
And I've got a cat, also rescue. And I have a galah, which is a parrot.
Okay.
And I have a small parrot, which is a cockatiel.
Oh,
so there's 5 children.
A small zoo, if you will.
Menagerie.
So what do you feed your pets? I mean,
it's a good question, and I have been criticised in the past because I've been quite open about the fact that I feed my animals meat. But that's changing now. I've made several attempts over the years to transition them to a vegan diet. It hasn't always been successful. But at this point of time, I have my dogs on 50-50. 50% vegan and 50% meat. And approximately the same with my cat. My birds only eat vegan anyhow.
So that saves you some trouble there, calculating the percentages. Kyle, if animals are treated humanely, is it okay to slaughter them?
No. And there's no such thing as a humane slaughter. No animal walks willingly into a slaughterhouse. Every living being has a life that is precious to them, just as it is to us. It's not all right.
So they can sense that impending end coming.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. At the moment, we are clearing forests to grow animal feed like corn and soya bean, and then we end up eating these animals. This doesn't seem to be a sustainable way to ensure our food security, is it?
Definitely not sustainable. We use many, I don't have any facts and figures in front of me, but the animal agriculture is very resource intensive. If you think of it, where instead of eating the plants directly, we feed the plants to the cow and we eat the cow.
Yeah.
So obviously it's not sustainable.
Yeah, we are depleting our own oxygen source, so to speak, and we are not doing any great favors to the animals we are feeding those products as well. Killing animals breeds, I would think, some indifference to life in general,
Yes.
and making humans less human, I think, every day. Do you think we will evolve into better people if we stop slaughtering animals?
I do. Yes, I do. And it's not only just killing them. Can I tell you a little story
Yeah,
what
sure.
happened this morning?
Mm-hmm.
I was in a tuk-tuk and trying to find a hotel. And the tuk-tuk driver wasn't quite sure where to go, realised he had to double back. And there was a dog that was lying in the way.
Mm-hmm.
And as he turned the wheels of the tuk-tuk, he went over the tail of the dog because the dog was in the way.
Mm-hmm.
Now that dog squealed in pain, immediately got up and started barking. And I heard in the barking of that dog, I heard hurt feelings.
Anger.
I heard, yes, anger, but also that dog's sense of self. And a dog who already has so much to deal with in life, including hunger and thirst and danger. But there was no consideration for the being within that animal. And I didn't tip the driver, needless to say.
For our listeners, tuk-tuk in Southeast Asia it's called a three-wheeler here in India, and it's called a tuk-tuk.
Yes, that's right, tuk-tuk. Yes, so it's a three-wheeler.
Yeah,
Sorry, I get my terms muddled
That's
up.
okay.
Sorry about that.
It's a pity these days that the kids have little exposure with the environment, and that lack of exposure to the environment has lack of empathy to the animals as well.
Yes.
This disconnect with the animals, I think, is breeding a lack of empathy in the generations that are coming up.
Could well be. Can I ask you a question? Do you feel that animals in villages are treated better than animals in cities?
I would think so. Comparatively better.
Yes.
They are well fed. Because there is a sense of, I think, connect between the animals and in a rural setting.
Yes.
There is some kind of connect there, but in an urban setup,
Yes.
there is a lot of indifference.
A lot of indifference.
So animals suffer more in the cities
Yes.
than they would
Yes.
in the...
But on the positive side, I have been delighted to see how many individual people have now sort of organised themselves into groups and they're going out and feeding. I've seen a number of people.
Yes, there is a growing movement
Yes.
all over the world, and I think in India as well.
Yes.
But it's a drop in the ocean compared to the problem that you're addressing at the moment.
It's one of the things, my little mission, my project Karuna I mentioned before, has raised funds to give to such people, to small shelters, and also a few of the larger shelters as well. I had the honour of having lunch with Mrs. Manika Gandhi yesterday, and of course she's got People for Animals, and I think 26 shelters all over New Zealand,
Yes,
all
yes.
over India. And but I want to be able to support people who are doing this, who have decided that, yes, I don't like to have an empty stomach, I don't like to be thirsty. Let me go and feed some animals, but often it's coming from their own pocket. So I'm hoping I can give a little financial support and a morale boost to these people. And hopefully maybe someone listening to this would say, okay, well, maybe I'll organise myself with my neighbours and we'll start feeding some animals in our area. At some point there's a tipping point
That's
in
right.
any of societies when change is coming about. The more people who do it, that will bring systemic change.
That's true. I mean, the money is not a problem. It is our lack of empathy that has to be
Yes.
accentuated
I think so
progressively to enable us to come to the goal that you're trying to.
Absolutely right. We need to open our hearts.
Mm-hmm. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for being with us today, and I'm sure you've lit a candle in the darkness of animal rights issues. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much.
It's been lovely talking to you. Thank you very much.